So sometimes we can feel like that. We're going through the motions of life, and then all of a sudden, bam, something just happens and causes us to think, where am I going? What am I doing? But do you guys ever feel like you're just wandering through life? You're just kind of like, I don't know, I guess I just kind of did the same thing yesterday that I do today. Wake up, go to school, do okay on my tests and stuff, do extracurriculars or whatever, go home, fall asleep, wake up again, do the same. Just kind of a flow. Sometimes you go where the flow goes. Even socially, you can go from fad to fad or trend to trend. Junior year of high school, I actually had a moment of clarity where I realized I'd kind of wasted half of high school trying to be somebody that I really wasn't. And some of you guys might be doing that right now. Some of you guys might have already had that realization because you're smarter than me earlier in life. But a lot of times we just waste so much time trying to be someone that we're not. We're trying to chase this image that is just meant to impress others. But trying to impress others is a horrible, horrible way to live your life, honestly. And the more we do that, the more lost I think we get. We kind of just go with the flow that way. And that's actually happened to me more times since junior year. I've kind of had to redirect my thoughts numerous times to remind myself, what is my true identity? Who am I? So you could say you need to redirect yourself before you wreck yourself. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry. Yeah. That's all for today. Okay, I'm just kidding. But if TV and movies have taught me anything, if you just go with the flow, that's either going to lead you to a roadblock or it's going to lead you off a cliff. Like pretty much every TV show where they're like in a stream, there's like a waterfall in the distance, like, oh no, we're going to go down. Like in Emperor's New Groove, he's like, let me guess, there's a waterfall and there's sharp rocks at the bottom. I'm like, oh yeah, like, bring it on. And then he goes down. I think about that every time. But that's what our lives can look like. So today we're going to identify what roadblocks are and how to get around them. So let's define what roadblocks are. Roadblocks are whatever keeps you from getting where you should go. So fill in the blank. Whatever keeps you from getting to where you should go. The word should is pretty important there. So it could be drugs, substance abuse, bad relationships, failures. I mean, you fill in the blank. Something probably popped into your head. We need to learn to take steps for yourself instead of just following the crowd. So as we continue this series called Steps, we want to remind you what we talked about last week. Because we talked about this idea of recalibration, a new way of thinking. We talked about that times where we're tempted to stop and retreat, but that we should actually stop and recalibrate instead. So embrace those times where it might be a little scary, it might be a little uncomfortable, but we're going to do it anyway. So today we're talking about something similar but a different problem. When you find the wrong path, we need to redirect. So let's define this word, redirect. You redirect by dealing with your roadblocks and finding a detour. So you deal with your roadblocks by finding a detour. So how do we deal with roadblocks? Let's talk about one. We need to, number one, be prepared. Be prepared. So approach a roadblock with readiness, and that is going to be a great detour for you. So assume that roadblocks are going to come. Stuff is going to show up in your life. What happens if you don't get into that college that you want to get into? What happens if you get dumped? What happens if you face peer pressure? Probably one of those three things, if not all of the three things, are going to happen to you. So you have to be prepared, knowing, okay, what am I going to do? That's not the end of me. I'm going to take another step. How many of you guys have been to Disneyland before? Disneyland, happiest place on earth. If you have not been, shame on you. I'll sneak you in. What, you can yell it out to me, but what usually has like the longest line at Disneyland? Yeah. The only one that I heard clearly was churro stand. But the Cars ride or Peter Pan is usually pretty long. So, but what happens when you're so excited, like, I want to go on this ride? You go and you see that sign. It's like 180-minute wait. And you're like, nope, not today. Guess I'm going single rider, or are you going to waste your whole day just waiting? Like Zipper, okay. But if you plan ahead, you would know, hey, I need to hit up these big rides early, or I need to get a fast pass so that I can come back later. So preparation actually turns a roadblock into a highway. When you prepare, that roadblock no longer blocks you from where you want to go. The number 2 thing we need to talk about is avoiding distractions. And I know how distracted we can get. And I spend enough time with teenagers to know how easy it is to be distracted. And I'm still very distracted myself as a 31-year-old. So I can only understand a little bit more what it's like for you guys. But we have to train ourselves to recognize a distraction immediately and then change directions. That's going to be a great detour for us. So avoiding distractions is actually a little easier than you think it would be. It's really just don't be distracted. Yeah. Like when a distraction comes our way, we have the choice to either like give into it or not. Like when you're trying to do homework and your phone buzzes, you have a choice. You say, oh, I'll look at my phone, and then you end up spending like 15 minutes scrolling through stuff that you didn't mean to do, and you're like, whoa, I gotta get back to this homework. Like, it's a choice. Distraction is a choice. Have you ever been caught in traffic for like a really long time? And you're like, why is this so long? And then you get up, and there was like a little fender bender on the side of the road, and it's like not even major or anything, and it's on the side of the road. You're like, why did I waste like 20 minutes, almost standstill on the freeway? It's because we're so obsessed with other people's problems. Like people are just like looking at, oh, that guy got in a car wreck. And like we're so obsessed by how it looks that we're willing to be like late to work or late to school because of those things. We're so obsessed with other people's problems. No joke, a couple weeks ago I actually had a student come up to me, and she ranted for like 10 minutes about this boy that she knows who is back with this girl who totally doesn't treat him right. And she like went on and on for 10 minutes. And I'm just like, do you see this boy very often? He's like, no, he lives in Minnesota. Like we are so obsessed with other people's problems. So maybe a solution is getting off the road or off the highway and finding another path. A detour is a good thing. So when someone presents a distraction, redirect your thoughts to what's really important, your destination. Something that helps you get to your destination is a support system, and that's our third and final thing. We need to find support. We need to find people around us to hold us accountable, to comfort us, and to support us in encouragement. So having the right people around you at the right time should lead to the right direction for you. Thus, it's the perfect detour. So sometimes when a roadblock comes, we realize that the people that we surround ourselves with actually aren't that supportive. Have you ever experienced this? Like where you're going through something and you try to rely on who you thought was your friend, but they're not as supportive as you thought they were, or they don't think that your problem's that big of a problem. We actually experienced this like pretty early on. And maybe I just had really bad friends when I was a kid, and you can say you didn't experience this, but tell me if this has happened to you before. You're playing with your friends when you're really little on the playground, you fall and get hurt, and they just run away. They're like, ah! And they run away. Has that ever happened to anybody else? Okay. So it's about half of us, okay? The other half are like, losers, I'm the one who runs. But that's kind of our natural instinct, is to run away from other people's problems too. Like we're obsessed with them, but also we don't want like to be caught in the middle of it. So real friends are there for you when you hit a roadblock. The best friends help you redirect and find a way out. And it could be more than just a friend. It could be a mentor, it could be a coach, it could be a teacher, it could be a rabbi, pastor, or whatever. It could be a parent. Your support system, everybody's support system looks different. The important thing is that you have one. So the next time you feel like you're just going through the flow, take a moment to redirect your steps. Only then will you go where you need to go. Peace out.